The Atacama humanoid, nicknamed Ata for short, otherwise known as the 6-inch alien, has recently become a worldwide sensation. Though the discovery of the diminutive mummified humanoid occurred in the year 2003, it was popularized by Steve Quayle and Klaus Dona in 2009, and then became the subject of a documentary film entitled Sirius in 2012. The Sirius documentary features the life and work of ufologist Dr. Stephen Greer. In the film, Dr. Greer conducts a rigorous scientific analysis of the Atacama humanoid, involving an autopsy, x-rays, CAT scans, and genetic sequencing. The results of the analysis have caused a stir of controversy in the scientific community. Although no one is claiming that Ata is a hoax, since he is comprised of real genetic material, organs, and bone marrow, many scientific personalities are claiming that he is nothing more than a mummified, aborted fetus, while other more intrepid minds are wondering if the entity is an extraterrestrial from outer space. We'll examine both claims, but first, let's review the background information. The Atacama humanoid was discovered in 2003 in the Atacama Desert of northern Chile by Oscar Munoz near an abandoned church in a ghost town called La Noria, 56 kilometers to the interior of Iquique. While searching for historical artifacts, Munoz found the entity lying on the ground wrapped in a white cloth tied with a violet ribbon, in which was found, details the Chilean newspaper La Estrella de Arica on the 19th of October 2003, a strange skeleton not more than 15 centimeters long. It was a creature with sharp teeth and a bulging skull with a strange protuberance on top. In addition, its crusted body was dark in color and, unlike humans, had 9 ribs. It is important to note 3 interesting facts about the Atacama Desert. First, it is the driest place on Earth, receiving less than 1 millimeter of rainfall per year, making it a virtual wasteland with almost no life. Second, it is one of the premier locations for space observation on Earth, hosting some of the world's most sophisticated observatories, including the Paranal, which has been called the world's most advanced visible light astronomical observatory. The desert is also a NASA staging ground for expeditions to Mars, due to its Mars-like environment and soil composition. And third, it is widely considered to be one of the most paranormally active places on Earth, with frequent sightings of spectral beings, UFOs, and yes, small humanoid entities, or duendes as they are called in the Andean regions of South America. The scientific analysis of the Atacama humanoid was conducted by a team of specialists led by Dr. Gary Nolan, a professor of microbiology and immunology at Stanford University. Dr. Ralph Lachman, also Stanford University, and author of the book Radiology of Syndromes, Metabolic Disorders, and Skeletal Dysplasias, was a consultant on the project who directed and reviewed the X-rays and CAT scans. Upon analysis of the scans, Dr. Lachman concluded that the humanoid's appearance is not the result of any known deformity, genetic defect, skeletal dysplasia, or any other known human abnormality. Based on an examination of the epiphyseal plates in the knees, bone structure development, and a tooth embedded in the mandible, Dr. Lachman also concluded that the specimen had lived to be 6 to 8 years of age. Dr. Nolan agreed. The entity had definitely lived long enough to eat, metabolize, and breathe air. The specimen was determined to have been mummified by the intense arid climate of the Atacama Desert and was at least a few decades old, or possibly older. The results of the genetic analysis conducted by Dr. Nolan were enigmatic. Nolan's team discovered that 91% of Ata's genes matched up with human genes. The 9% in DNA mismatches could stem from several factors, including the specimen's degradation, insufficient data, or unidentifiable sequences. In other words, the entity's genome has been confirmed to be mostly human, and therein lies the enigma. How could the Atacama humanoid be mostly human and yet only 6 inches tall? To put it scientifically, why does the phenotype not appear to fit the genotype? The answer, in my humble opinion, is quite simple. We are just beginning to understand how genes work. The genome of a living organism is not a simple mechanism that can be accurately manipulated simply by rearranging its individual parts. Instead, It is a highly complex system of integrated coordinating components which operate both independently and cooperatively. Because of this, slight alterations to certain genes in specific locations of the genome can lead to remarkable variations in both the appearance and nature of an organism. Keep in mind that, genetically speaking, all human beings are 99.9% the same. A mere 0.1% difference in genetic composition accounts for all of the variation between us. The fact that 85% of a mouse's DNA is the same as ours provides us with a clear illustration of how a little genetic variation can make a very big difference. There is an aggressive attempt to debunk the findings of the Sirius documentary analysis. Even though the professionals working with the Atacama humanoid have ruled out the possibility that it is an aborted fetus, many people are still holding on to that claim. The argument is not without merit. There do appear to be some distinct similarities between the mummified humanoid and the skeletal structure of a fetus. Many who argue the fetus theory claim that the humanoid's head was deformed during the extraction process of the abortion, in which a hook was inserted into the back of the skull to pull the fetus out of the womb. The missing rib is easily explained away by this crowd simply with the notion that it had not yet developed while in the womb. And the narrowing of the rib cage, along with the erect posture of the specimen, could have easily resulted when the fragile fetus was wrapped in the cloth. Finally, their prime argument seems to be that the bone density analysis of Dr. Lachman was fatally flawed because the specimen was mummified, which could change the composition and density of the bone, making it near impossible to determine the age of the humanoid with any certainty. While I believe that these claims are logical, I do not believe that they are substantial enough to undermine the expertise of Dr. Ralph Lachman. There are several crucial factors that debunk the fetus theory of the debunkers. First of all, the bone structure of certain parts of the humanoid's anatomy is radically different in comparison to the corresponding parts of a normal fetus. According to the results of the analysis, we know that this is not due to any deformity, genetic defect, skeletal dysplasia, or any other known human abnormality. The skull of the specimen displays intricate structural anomalies that would not have been caused by hook extraction during an abortion. Furthermore, the common practice of abortion in the small towns of the Andean communities, where Ata was found, is not the dangerous procedure of extraction from the womb with a hook, but induced miscarriages through the use of medicinal plants. Finally, Dr. Lachman's conclusion about the age of the humanoid was not based solely on bone density, but on bone structure development, including of the teeth that the entity obviously had, one of which was still attached to its mandible during the examinations. It would have been much easier and safer for Dr. Lachman to declare the diminutive mummified humanoid an aborted fetus, especially in light of the speculation that it might be extraterrestrial. And yet, after intense scrutiny, the guy that wrote the book on skeletal abnormalities in infants ruled the fetus possibility out. There is, of course, no indication whatsoever that the Atacama humanoid is of extraterrestrial origin. Those who were hoping that the Sirius documentary's analysis of the entity would yield the kind of results needed to finally break the seal on extraterrestrial disclosure were sorely disappointed. In conclusion, I believe that what we have here is exactly what we should have expected from the beginning. A humanoid hybrid whose origin is terrestrial, but whose genetic composition is not fully human, and a scientific community struggling to deal with that fact. In my mind, the question of whether or not the humanoid is a fetus is not really the most important one. In the Sirius documentary, Dr. Nolan declares, "The sequence that we got from the mitochondria tells us with extremely high confidence that the mother was an indigenous Indian from the Chilean area. Mitochondrial DNA testing only reveals the genetic lineage of the mother. My question is, who was the father? I'll bet he wasn't very handsome. I'll bet he wasn't fully human. And I'll bet we will never be told the truth if I'm right." I'm Timothy Alberino, reporting for SteveQuail.com.